Cool. Yeah, I have a question for you then, Gilly. Sometimes when I speak to people on the podcast and people wherever they might be, they often fit into sort of two categories and maybe there's two sides of the coin. And some people are very driven and that they'll really chase after their goals. They're very serious at getting what they want. And then there's kind of the flip of that, which is people that still manage to be successful, but they go about it differently. They're much more relaxed and they're much more sort of chilled in the way that they go about achieving the things that they want to do. And I want to ask you, were you on the sort of really driven side where it was sort of, I have this target and I'm going to do it by this day kind of thing? Or is it more of a relaxed, like this opportunity came up, that's great. I'm going to do it as best I can and see where it goes. I'm curious to hear, what your thoughts on that is and perhaps which side perhaps you lean to more.
The only possible answer to that question is the one that everyone must give, and that is both. Depends on the time of your life and the circumstances. And we're often not our own best judges. It's often the people closest to us who have far more accurate opinions of that sort of thing. Now, in my own defense, I would say I wasn't driven, but my late wife may have a very different view about it, as may some of the people who were my partners. If you had said determined rather than driven, I would have said yes. I am a person of determination. I'm not easily dissuaded from what I think. But as I progressed in life, I became a far better listener and a far better determination with me sometimes meant I had to get to the end very quickly. I had to know the answer. Whereas I now understand that the real value is in the process. Is that I think it's a great African proverb, isn't it? That alone I can travel fast, together we can travel far. And I think with my life, I've come to understand that much better. I hate categorizing people. If we think about, I don't know what's your favorite sports, but if you were to think about like tennis or batsmen in cricket, laid back, relaxed, driven. See, for my era, I would say that Dougie Walters, the great Dougie Walters, who between his innings sat in the room smoking cigarettes back to back and playing poker and chewing on gum, came out to the centre and never showed any sign of being driven, but was unbelievably tenacious. And then you get the likes of Steve Smith and Michael Clark, who for all the world looked as though the most important thing was never getting out. And then you get the other Gilly, Adam Gilchrist, who was just a cavalier batsman. And for all the world, looked as though at every moment he was having the greatest fun under the sun. But absolutely determined, absolutely tenacious, didn't want to give the any micromillimeter. So I think it's good to be conscious of these things, but it's also good for yourself not to beat yourself up about it. You see, the only the only thing I wonder about the word driven, and I'm a great like catching bugs in some way. It's not really it's etymology, which is the science of the meaning of words. Anyway,
I don't know.
we could go look up the word driven, where it came from. And driven for me connotes something that's coming from outside of you. Almost a little sense of you've got no control over it, almost like a runaway motor. focus on. Whereas if you aspire to something or you're tenacious about it or you're determined, that always seems to me as though it's becoming more powerful. I I have more control over it. That's just the way I see it. I wouldn't attribute good or bad or right or wrong to any of those things. Because at times in our lives, it's those things that represent the breakthroughs for us. I can see in my oldest grandson a great deal of my determination. More importantly, most of the rest of the family says, Michael is exactly the same as you. Now, he's just so determined about things. But he's the most loving person, the most generous person. Yeah, a spectacular basketballer and rugby player, so much for the team, all about the team.
Yeah.
So, and it's the other point is that we've got to avoid single lines in balance sheets. Like you can look at a human being, and if you're just looking at one line in their balance sheet, you're not seeing the person. At the same time, of course, as you're maybe inappropriately judging, maybe doing some
Mm,
comparison stuff. Go
mm,
read Rene Girard. I don't know whether you guys studied philosophy, but it's all about the whole person. You can look at somebody and say, "Oh, what a mean person." Well, maybe in that circumstance, what else? Yeah, what else do I know about?
yeah.
Do I really understand what was happening in their life at that point in time? No. Do I understand what else? Anyway, get off the soapbox, Gilly. You're not here for that.
No, it's just useful life, just advice. I think the way you picked up on that, way, you never truly know what someone else is going through. And I guess you picked up on 2 points really. It's important how other people do perceive you, like how your grandson, just importantly to use that everybody can kind of tell you that he's just like you, but it's also, I guess, just important to keep in mind that we don't always know the full story of what's going on with someone. Our perceptions of what's going on with them might not actually be accurate to the truth. And I guess if someone's annoying you or doing something to rub you the wrong way, it might not just be because they enjoy doing that to you. They might have other things going on. So just keeping an open mind and trying to be tolerant and respectful just goes a long way, not just in your work, but just in your life in general.
And Peter, when the others say he's just like me, they're quite wrong because I can see characteristics within him that at his age I would have died for.
Yeah.
I would have loved to have had the courage that he has of his own conviction. I would have loved to have felt able to speak out to my parents in a respectful way as he does, whereas I was raised in an environment where you could not have those challenging conversations. I love that sort of stuff within him. And I really love his parents for it, because they're able. And that's why I say it's only when you've got all the, that's only my take on it as well. But